Okay, so page 163 for math boxes. All of this stuff is going to be review, guys. Number one, A and B, we did earlier this week. Remember to decompose just means that you're going to break down the number into smaller units. So the denominator stays the same, but 3, you might add this up 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8, or you could do 2/8 plus 1/8, okay, but you cannot have a 0/8. That's the only rule. You can't have a 0 as a numerator, okay? All right, and then number 2's just traditional subtraction practice, and 3, traditional addition practice. Number 4 is just reviewing fractions and decimals. And then on number 5, filling in the missing fractions. Remember, you have to count to see how many pieces has it been divided into. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This would be 5/5, right? So you can either go backwards and say 4/5, 3/5, 2/5, 1/5, or you can go, once you know that there's going to be 5 sections, you can just label it 1/5, 2/5. Okay. Same thing for letter B. First, decide how many pieces your line has been divided into, and then label each part of the number line. All right. Go ahead, and if you need to pause me and get started on that, you can do that now. If you have finished math boxes and you're ready for our lesson today, go ahead and open up to the next clean sheet of your math notebook, because we are going to talk about adding fractions when they don't have the same denominator. Okay, I know this problem looks really weird, right? Like I left a ton of space, and you're going to find out why. But when you are adding fractions, you must, this is the one important rule. If you write down anything in your notebook, please write down the denominators must be the same. Okay, they must be the same. And so there's a way to solve for that. And I'm going to show you that way. But first, I'm going to show you kind of a trick. Makes it a little bit easier. We've been working with fractions and decimals, right? So we know that 2/10 is really going to be the same thing as 20 hundredths, right? If I take these two longs and broke them down into individual cubes, that would be 20 out of the whole flat, which would be 100. So when we see our denominators as tens and hundreds, which it will be your lessons today, all of your denominators will be either 10 or 100. And we're trying to make it the same by matching the larger number. Okay, that's the rule. So we know that that's basically just 20 hundredths, right? Now that we have the denominator being the same, we can just go ahead and add these. 20 plus 45 is 65, and of course, hundreds would be your denominator. But what you're actually doing is a little bit more, there's a little bit more to that process. And I'm going to show you that right now, because you will need to know this later on when our denominators are not as clean and easy as tens and hundreds. Okay, so really what you're doing is you're taking the smaller denominator and you're going to multiply it by whatever number needs to be multiplied to get to that larger number, which was 100. So we know that 10 times 10 is going to equal 100. Okay, so that's where we're getting this number. And then whatever you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. So I multiplied the bottom by 10, so the top also has to be multiplied by 10. And that gives me 20. Okay, so this is actually what we're doing, this little rule right here, but it's just kind of a neat trick since we know about the tens and hundreds with the fractions. That also works for these. Okay, but the rest of these, we're going to practice doing it, multiplying it by the numerator and denominator by the same number to match the denominator that we're adding to. Okay, so let's try it. We have 6/10 plus 3 hundredths. Okay, we need the 10 to get to 100. So we know that we have to multiply the bottom by 10, okay? And that's going to give us 100. 10 times 10 is 100. Whatever we do to the bottom, we must do to the top. So 6 times 10 will equal 60. Now that our denominators are matching, we can just go ahead and add it like normal. 60 plus 3 is 63 hundredths. I should say 60 hundredths plus 3 hundredths equals 63 hundredths. All right, you try this one on your own. In your notebook, pause the video and try it, and then we'll go over the answer. Okay, hopefully you know that to get from 10 to 100, we have to multiply the denominator by 10, which is going to give us 100. Whatever we do to the bottom, we have to do the top. 5 times 10 equals 50. So 50 hundredths plus 41 hundredths equals 91 hundredths. If you did not get the right answer, and yours does not match mine, go back, rewind the video, and see where your mistake is. Okay? See if you can solve it from there. All right, let's try another one. 7 tenths plus 10 100ths. Pause the video and try that on your own. Okay, we cannot add fractions unless they have the same denominator. So to do that, we multiply 10 by 10. That will give us 100. Now our denominators are matching. What I do to the bottom, I must do the top. 7 times 10 is 70. And now I'm ready to add. 70 hundredths plus 10 hundredths equals 80 hundredths. Okay, hopefully we're getting the hang of it. Sometimes though, you're going to see problems like this. And people, fourth graders will look at this and go, oh my gosh, there's so many more. And some of them have 100 and some of them don't. Okay, not a problem. We still follow the same rules. The largest denominator is 100. And so in order to add, we need to get all of our denominators to 100. So let's see what that would look like. Okay, so I first need to multiply 10 times 10 so that I can get this first fraction equivalent. So I need to get that one to 100. So if you look down here, 10 times 10 is 100. And then what I do to the bottom, I must do to the top. So 2 times 10 will be 20. 9 100ths is ready to go. I don't have to do anything. I'm just going to bring that right down here because I'm going to do all my math thinking down underneath here. All right, but we're back to 15 tenths. Again, have to get this 10 to 100. So what do I need to do? Well, 10 times 10 is going to give me 100. So we're going to put that down here underneath it. 15 times 10, well, 15 times 1 is 15, append my 0, so I have 150 hundredths. Now, some people will say, hey, that's one of those improper fractions. That's okay. Just leave it. We'll do the math with it as an proper fraction, and we can convert it later. All right, 31 100ths already set, so I'm just going to pull it down. Okay, now that all my denominators are the same, they're all 100. I just need to add them. Okay, so this becomes a traditional addition problem. Okay, over here on the side, I could have written 29, 150, 31, and I could have and added up. Okay, and when I do that, I will get 210, and then remember the denominator stays the same, 210 100ths. Okay, in fourth grade, this is fine. You're done. This is an acceptable answer. Those of you that want to kind of challenge yourself and make it more of a middle school answer, we need to make this a mixed number. Okay, so we know 100 goes into 200 two times, right? Because if I break down 210, I might do it 100 plus 100 plus 10, right? That's still 210. And we know that 100 100ths is going to equal 1 whole. So that's 1 whole. But look here, if I could slide this over, I'd have another 100 100ths, which is a second whole, right? Which makes sense. We just said 100 goes into 210 twice. So I have a whole number of 2 and 10 left over. So that becomes my fraction, 10/100ths. So again, 210 over 100 is correct, okay? But 2 and 10/100ths is also correct. They're equivalent. One's written in proper fraction form, the other is written as a mixed number. All right, if that's confusing at all, always go back, rewind, and watch again, okay? On page 164 today, you are going to be doing some equations to show your math thinking. We're going to use what we know about equivalent fractions. So 5/10, you're going to write this as a fraction. 5 over 10 plus 27/100ths. So 27 over 100. You need to make your denominators the same. So you must multiply the denominator of the tenths by 10, and whatever you do at the bottom, you have to do the top. And then once you have gotten the denominators to be the same, you're ready to add. So the first two, they just have them written out in words, and you need to write them on the line in fractions. Well, it says equation in words, but you don't need to do the words, just write the number model. Okay? And then number 3 and 4, they're back to the traditional fractions. Okay, and again, all 4 of these, you have to change one of the denominators so that it is matching the larger one. Okay, and then same thing on 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so 6 is the same thing that we did on earlier. And then number 7, they're just trying to throw you off a little bit. You don't need to worry at all about these whole numbers. Just worry about this fraction, doing the same thing you've been doing, making this 10 the same as 100 by multiplying it by 10, multiplying this top number by 10, and then you know from yesterday that you just add your whole numbers first and then add the numerators for your fraction. And that's it. Okay, that's what we're doing today. If you need help, make sure you grab a grown-up and ask for help, or I will be on Zoom if you need to jump on. Okay, good luck.